Hey, this is StarCraft 2 History, Part 20, and this one's only going to cover one tournament. It is Blizzcon 2013, and there are a few things to talk about when we're talking about this event. It is the first event that ends the WCS season, so prior BlizzCon's 2012 was like a WCG type event. 2011 was more of an invitational, and then 2010, let's just ignore that. So this is like the biggest culminating event for the year, and it's kind of like a festival. It's kind of a celebration of all Blizzard. It's what BlizzCon is about, right? And so basically, BlizzCon is also only a 2-day event, and the reason you have to put that out there is because it's it's very hard or arguably impossible to run a 2-day event and have all of the matches on stream on one stage, because this is a 16-man single elimination tournament and there's a bunch of other shit they have to do. Right. What does this have to do with BlizzCon 2013 is they decided we're going to do multiple streams. And now I'm usually for this for a majority of tournaments, but I'm against it for the biggest event of your year, and also because it's not like any of these 16 players were jobbers. They were the best of the region, among the best of their race, a majority of them the best players in the world at that point. And so it's not like you're skipping, to use a CSGO example, it's not like you're skipping weak group stages in like a major. It's more like you're skipping huge, like important matches, like when they did that triple stream for Blast Pro Series, right? Where it's like, oh, there's all these good matches you want to watch, but you can't watch all of them, so you have to pick and choose. And this is even worse in the case of BlizzCon, because what's going to happen here is nobody's going to be able to see the second stream at BlizzCon, so there's going to be this weird sort of narrative break. And what I mean by narrative break is usually when you watch a tournament, you're basically going to see a natural story unfold no matter what you do. You're going to see, assuming you know your history, assuming you know the analysis, assuming you understand a little bit of drama, a little bit of tension, at least the importance of life, or at the very least competition, you're going to have a very easy story to tell. And now this is where 2013 BlizzCon comes in, because like I said, there were a few obvious storylines going through, but these were the ones people were actually thinking about. They were thinking in their heads, dear, triple Railroader maybe, because this guy had just won GSL on his first run through the Railroad. He had run WCS Season 3 finals. He had made that like 1.x% possible to make it to BlizzCon, and now everybody thought he was the best player in the world. Right, he's one of them. Next you have Jaedong. This guy had been losing finals all year, and everybody thought, okay, this is finally his chance. Of course, there was Innovation, arguably the most dominant Terran player of the year. Maru, Deer's rival, arguably even better than Innovation. Tasia, one of the best Terran players at the end of the year, arguably the best Terran player. There's definitely a case for that, and I think Team Liquid did vote for him as the best player of the year, and I'll go into that in a different video, because the shit he does is really fucking crazy at the end of 2013. It's like, it's as good as any GSL run, in my opinion. What he basically does is, and he has like 2 tournaments like that. Of course, there's Polt, the Captain America, Bomber, WCS Season 2 champion. MMA has returned. Sulky, the best Zerg of the year. Naniwa, the Foreigner Hope. This guy really fucking had to try hard in order to get all the way to this point, right? So these were the main storylines, and so Blizzard, I believe, tried to do this WWE thing, because they're like, okay, well, if we're just looking at the schedule, it doesn't make sense. We can't really do all the main stages at once. So we're just going to run this storyline. And then what they ended up doing was, after Jaedong beats MVP, and then Jaedong beats Deer, like Deer was the triple railroader, or double railroad, and looking to be a triple, he takes gets taken out by Jaedong. Everybody thinks, okay, now it's time. Now it's time for Jaedong to become champion at the biggest tournament of the year, because this guy was super popular, super beloved, and everybody thought this was going to be the culmination of everything. Culmination of Jaedong proving to the world he was the best Zerg player. He wasn't going to be. Proving that the S rank the rank S players of Brood War could dominate StarCraft 2. They didn't. And proving finally that he could win a championship. He did, but not this one. He would go on to win NorthCon after this, which is a smaller tournament. Pretty good bunch of players, to be honest, but wasn't quite the victory people were hoping for. And instead what happens is you're going to get two guys who have the best stories of this tournament streamed on the second stage. And nobody knows about this because majority of people were watching the main stream, and anybody who was actually at the event couldn't watch these games. So I actually wrote about them because this kind of pissed me off. But basically, here's what happens. Innovation plays against DuckDuck. And now DuckDuck is a guy I haven't talked about at all throughout StarCraft 2 history. And the reason I didn't talk about him is because he is irrelevant for the first 3 years. And he starts at the very beginning. This is a guy who played in Wera. And Wera, if you don't know, was actually a StarCraft 2 clan, a StarCraft 2 team at the very beginning of StarCraft 2 beta. And DuckDuck was a guy who played in that, and as far as I know, he was involved. He was like one of the people who was getting abused by the coach. Like, basically, the coach was like, as far as I remember, there was like he was trying to molest the players or something really disgusting like that. And so, basically, like DuckDuck and the entire team leaves, and he's basically stuck around in Code A for the majority of the time. He has an okay run in like an NASL. Back then, he was known as Finale. When the WCS season starts in Europe in 2013, he decides to try his luck in WCS EU. And of course, a bunch of people were talking shit about him. Go back to Korea. You're a runner. You're a shit. Ha ha ha. No way is this shit tier Korea gonna win. That shit tier Korean does win. So it becomes like the biggest achievement of his life. And as he picks up the trophy, he kind of just breaks down in tears because this was a guy who had tried for so fucking long in order to win, and he had like suffered through all the insults, faced this Korean, you're terrible at this game, you're a runner, etc., etc. But if you just look at how much work he had put in, how much turmoil, how long he had stuck with it, it's a beautiful story, but perhaps not one that was liked by Blizzard, or maybe it's just a matter of choice, like Jaedong or DuckDuck, and then they went with Jaedong. And so, or it could have been any of those players. I forget the exact schedule, but basically, for sure, all of DuckDuck's games were on second stream. And the reason I'm talking about this is because DuckDuck is now placed against Innovation. Everyone's like, oh, that was a great story. You're through. You're done. Innovation is... He was actually already overhyped at that point, because I personally believe he was only the third best Terran. At that point, I think Tasia and Maru had both eclipsed him. But he was a definite like pick to potentially win this entire thing. Definitely was still one of the best players in the world. And so he plays against DuckDuck in the first match. Everybody was thinking in their heads, well, Innovation's going to win this for sure because TVP had always been his best matchup. And not his best matchup, but it's been one of his most dominant. TVZ was the other one. And everybody was thinking in their heads, okay, what he's going to do, and this is what Innovation actually does says in a pre-tournament interview, is he says, I'm going to focus my TVT because I think I'm going to end up having to play it against somebody like Maru, who would match up with him in the next round. And that's kind of a failing on Innovation's part because DuckDuck takes it to him. DuckDuck does something similar to what Naniwa does. He does a timing attack, but with Blink Stalkers. Gets Innovation down to 2 games. Innovation rallies back, gets 2. And then DuckDuck, knowing that he has instilled fear in Innovation's heart, goes for a crazy gamble and does like a triple Nexus build. And Innovation is still in his base, still literally bunkering up, hoping, or not even hoping, but thinking that an all-in is coming. By the time he realizes the all-in isn't coming, DuckDuck has already secured his 3 bases, and Innovation has to all-in himself to have a chance at winning this game. He almost does it, because, Innovation is a much better player than DuckDuck, but DuckDuck, in his pure desperation, he holds on, he survives, and he wins. Basically, the biggest upset of that year. The crowning match, the crowning series of DuckDuck's entire fucking career comes down to that moment. It's on the second stream. Nobody sees it. It's not on the main stage. And this is like something he's been fighting for his entire life. This is a guy who actually did, like I said, break down crying when he finally got that trophy. This was the biggest tournament of his life, biggest stage of his life, and forced into a dark room in a corner where nobody could see. It's always been a very sad moment for me personally, because I feel like when you're going to these tournaments, even if you don't have a small chance, you actually want that big upset to happen on stage. And it's even more relevant in the case of DuckDuck, because DuckDuck decides this is going to be his last StarCraft 2 tournament. The end of his career is going to be here. And so basically Blizzard did him dirty this one, because this is the best series of his life. He wins it against arguably the best player of the year. Like, I don't think so, but it's definitely one of the best players of the year. And somebody like everybody thought was going to trash DuckDuck. DuckDuck upsets him. DuckDuck moves on. And now DuckDuck plays Maru. And like I said, I think Maru was an even better player than Innovation. And DuckDuck almost beats Maru. But this time, he kind of flips the series order, where he's like pretends to be like this macro player, and then he starts all-inning. And then the game 5 is like this pure like desperate like gamble of him trying to proxy a void raid. Mario sees it, Mario cancels it. DuckDuck tries again, DuckDuck fails, and you just see like DuckDuck kind of crushed. DuckDuck had basically bet it all, and he loses. And that's the end of DuckDuck's entire StarCraft 2 story, put on the second stage in a corner where nobody could see. Actually, I even wrote like how like depressing that basically is, and how like Blizzcon basically screwed him. And so we get to the other player who Blizzcon I think screwed over, and that's SOS. And now SOS, everybody knows him now, but nobody knew him back then. And the reason nobody knew him was because he only had a few good runs at the very early parts of 2013 Heart of the Swarm. But among the Protoss players, he was quite beloved. And what I mean by that is this guy was breaking all of the fucking rules in terms of composition, in terms of build order, in terms of strategy, in terms of tactics. This guy was breaking all the rules. And it's not like it was a true revolution, because all the things he did, like some of them were adopted, some of them weren't. But only he could do them in such an extreme way as he did them, because he had great game sense. He had great understanding of how to abuse and use different like minor things like architecture, compositions, positioning, stuff like that. So SOS also relegated to second stream, but for SOS this is going to be the beginning, because this is going to be the legend of SOS, the $100,000 man, the man who becomes the big game clutch player, the man who wins the big prize pools, the man who destroys dreams, destroys hearts, and takes the trophy of the weekenders. And this guy is also a bit overhyped in the sense that he was huge for certain weekend events, similar to Tasia, except he didn't have the incredible consistency of the top tier players. And if you're not showing up every day, you don't get the title of being the best player in the world or being the best player of that year. I'm sorry, Blizzard. I'm sorry. It's just the case, even though you can disagree with me if you want. I'm pretty sure I'd win that argument. So SOS beats Hero. Pretty good, I'd say. SOS beats Polt. SOS beats Bomber. And then SOS plays Jaedong. And like I said, everybody... At this point, nobody had actually seen SOS's games at BlizzCon, because I believe every single one of his games is on the second stream. And so at this point, he plays against Jaedong, and everybody thinks in their mind, at least at BlizzCon, oh, Jaedong is going to win. Jaedong is finally going to achieve redemption for this year. He's finally going to get his first place. Doesn't happen. SOS breaks into Jaedong's mind, and then he does Inception before Inception comes out. Basically, he's like, I am in here. I am writing what you are going to do and how I'm going to counter it, and you're dead. Jaedong completely crumbles under the pressure, or maybe SOS completely outplays him. Maybe it's a combination of the two. SOS wins. As far as I know, it was silent. It was silent like a morgue. At least it was on stream when I was watching. And SOS fucking destroys Jaedong, and this becomes the start of SOS's legend as the big game clutch player. And he is the other greatest story never told, because, like I said, nobody had ever seen him play, at least at that BlizzCon, because he was on the secondary stream. And this is a meta tangent, I suppose. basically, you really can't do this WWE shit when you're actually trying to do an actual tournament. Like, I understand when you can do it and when you can't do it. This is one of those where you can't, where they kind of like they really try to push this Jaedong thing the entire time, and it didn't work out. And you basically screwed over DuckDuck. This was his last fucking tournament. You screwed over SOS because this was going to be the start of his fucking legend. But you know what? SOS won. SOS got 100,000, and DuckDuck moved on to Heart of the Swarm, and apparently he won in that too. So good for both of them. And that's the end of BlizzCon 2013. As for the rest of it, let's see. Was there anything else I want to talk about? I guess I'll talk about this because Jaedong does get Jaedong, and I guess I'll clear up a bunch of tournaments that happened at the end of 2013 that don't really fall into the Tasia category, because Tasia is gonna do some crazy shit in his own little universe. But basically, Jaedong wins NorthCon, like I said, and NorthCon actually had a bunch of great players there. Let me check. Basically, it had Life, Innovation. Stardust was decent. San was good. MMA. And Jokji, he goes on. Jaedong beats Elfie, beats Innovation, beats Scarlet. And in the finals. And this is actually something really funny about, it's not going to be about Jaedong, but basically it's going to be about Innovation. There's something funny about Innovation is that he actually has more chances than anybody else in StarCraft 2 history, if you're thinking about it. Because in terms of longevity, he's basically been around for 5 years. That's double the time of Innovation. He's also been in Kespa, and he's been in the foreigner team, because at that point he was playing in Acer, so he had a bunch of chances to play in foreigner tournaments. But he never really got the results that he needed to oust somebody like Life, Tasia, MVP, or Sue, in my opinion. So that's just an interesting point to look at, because it's not really something like the Innovation fans seem to acknowledge. Or actually, one did. He basically said MVP was Michael Jordan or something. So I always thought that was kind of a funny tangent. But anyway, beyond that, there's Hot 6 Cup, and this is the one where Rain wins over Sulky. It's pretty good finals. And basically it shows, like, I didn't really talk about Rain a lot, this one, because Rain's dominance for this year comes from his Pro League and from his... And he actually has pretty consistent results. Let me check the exact results throughout the year, even though he doesn't make BlizzCon. Let me see here. No, he actually doesn't. He only has the second against Maru, actually. And he makes it to the playoff. Actually, no. He makes it to the playoffs of Season 2 finals, and where like he loses to Tasia. Tasia's a beast, what can you say? And then in Season 3, he loses to... in Season 3 GSL, he gets to the round of 8, and then loses to Sulky. So I guess it's like a revenge match, right? And as for Rain, he has yet to learn, in my opinion... He had yet to learn the lessons that he could have taken from MVP's victory over him, and then he wouldn't learn them in 2014 either. He had only learned them in 2015, and that's the year when he finally gets his GSL victory. So that's something to watch out for. IEM Singapore, it's going to be is the finals between Hero and San, and it's also going to be the rise of CJ Hero as one of the best Protoss players in the world. And then, of course, there is WCG 2013. And the only reason I'm talking about this is because Sora comes out of nowhere, and Sora is somebody I'm not going to talk about again. Basically, this guy decided one day when he was watching StarCraft, I want to be a pro gamer. And it becomes literally the last pro gamer in Korea to get anywhere. That's new. So, shout out to him. And I think this covers it for BlizzCon. See you guys later.